Mother moved in her abusive boyfriend into our house only for him to abuse me, and she did nothing about it. All of this happened over 10 years ago. When I was 16, my mother met the devil in the form of a personal trainer. My mom and dad at the time had gotten a divorce. My dad started dating somebody else, and my mom started dating her personal trainer. Now, the extent of her obsession with this man was disgusting. She would do anything to impress him. She would even try to pay for his bills. She got him a bunch of clients for his gym. She would buy him gifts every single week. She was completely and utterly obsessed. From the moment I met him, I knew there was something wrong with him. He would tell my mom that I needed to be disciplined. He also judged the way that I dressed. He would judge my friends, so I started defending myself. I would talk back to him, but this just made him even angrier. Let me just give you some context. I was a straight A student. I was captain of my soccer team, and my mom and I had never had any issues before that. So he kept brainwashing my mom into believing that I was just a bad kid. And for some reason, my mom started agreeing with him. 2 months later, he convinced my mom that he should move in with us. That's when the abuse started. So he made a set of rules. He typed them out, printed them, and put them on the fridge. And if I broke any of these rules, I had to run on the treadmill for an hour. Like I said, my mom and I had never had any issues before him. We were more like best friends, and she believed me. At this point, he had completely brainwashed her into believing that I was just a rebel, and that I needed to be disciplined. One of his rules was that I couldn't eat past 10 p.m. He would lock the fridge so that I couldn't get in. I would come home so late from school because I was in so many clubs and sports. By the time I came home, he would force me to do my homework. After that, I had about half an hour to stuff my face with anything I could find. He even told my mom not to make me dinner because I needed to become self-sufficient. I lost about 10 pounds within a month. I was playing soccer every single day. When I would get to school, I would try to eat as much as I could. One day, I broke the lock on the fridge, and he threw me so hard into a wall, I got a concussion. And he told my mom that I was the one trying to fight him, that all he did was try to push me off and I hit the wall. My mom believed him. He would find any reason to grab me by the arm and shake me. He would hide my backpack and my shoes so that I would be late to school. And anytime my friends came over, he would bully us. Eventually, it escalated to slapping me every time I talked back. My mom would see it and not do anything. When I complained to her, she would cry but not do anything. I asked her to kick him out and she didn't. She told me that she was afraid of being by herself. I was not going to wait for the next time. I grabbed my backpack and ran to my dad's house. And when I told my dad what was happening, he took me to the police and we made a report. When the police showed up to my mom's house, she came to her senses and realized what was happening. She kicked him out and I didn't speak to her for 3 years. I ended up getting back with him, but then they broke up again. I'm now into real estate and I own several properties. My dad and I see each other every single day. I barely speak to my mom. I recently found out she got back together with him. How do I break them up? Give me ideas.
Today I realized that my boyfriend never compliments me. We've been together for 8 years and have a pretty solid relationship. Today, I received a tapestry that I ordered online. It's really beautiful and I was counting down the days till it arrived. As soon as I got it, I opened it and showed it to my boyfriend. His reaction was that looks like something they'd hang on a cheap stall on the side of the road where they do haircuts. That slightly annoyed me because he could see my obvious excitement and happiness with it. Even if he didn't like it, he could have just said it looks cool and that would have been fine. Anyway, I overlooked this, but then I realized that he always does this. Whenever I'm excited or proud of something, he just has to trash on it. Recently I made my first crochet project. It was a pig and it took me a whole week. I also have joint problems, so I was extra proud that I had completed it and that it came out perfectly. When I showed it to him, I didn't even get an "it's cute" or "it turned out really well." He just looked at it and went back to sleep. At that time, I chalked it up to him just being uninterested because I woke him up from a nap to show him a pig. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that he always does this. Whenever I'm happy/excited/proud of something, the first words out of his mouth are to criticize. I'm a pessimistic person myself, but when someone comes to me bursting with excitement about something, I'm always supportive. It doesn't cost much to say, "That's really nice," or "Wow, well done." Even if it's not something that particularly interests me or is in my taste, I'm always supportive. When he shows me diagrams of buildings that he's working on, he's an architect, even though it doesn't interest me, I'm always supportive and I even pay attention to learn so I can understand what he's talking about. I do the same when he talks about computer parts. I have no natural interest in it, but for him, I listen and support. Honestly, I don't care about the capabilities of that graphics card, but I can see how excited you are when you talk about it, so I pay attention and I say how awesome I think it is. This realization led to another. He never compliments me in general. I compliment him. I tell him he's handsome. I tell him he's pretty. I do that quite often. Me on the other hand, I don't remember the last time he gave me a compliment. These realizations made me kind of sad and are really bothering me. Am I just being too sensitive? Should I try talking to him? But what would I say? You can't exactly force someone to be complimentary. Any advice would be appreciated. I thought I'd do an update for anyone who is interested. But first I want to clear some things up. A few people were wondering why I woke my boyfriend up from his nap. We were watching TV in the lounge, and then he went missing. About 5 minutes later, I was done with my pig and I wanted to show it to him. I found him in our room, laying down. I was really excited to show it to him, so I nudged him, showed it to him and said, "Look, I finally finished it. Isn't he cute?" He looked at me, rolled his eyes and faced away again. He couldn't have been in that deep of a sleep since he was awake 5 minutes prior and he didn't have work the next day. He has also woken me up from sleep before for far less, so I thought it was okay to show him something, just for a second. Nevertheless, I said sorry and I left. I didn't get mad and neither did he. Secondly, a lot of you were like, "How is your relationship solid then?" What I meant by solid was that we get along, have a lot of the same interests and hardly ever argue. I didn't realize how much of his behavior was toxic until very recently, and I feel beyond dumb for that. Anyway, I want to say thank you to everyone that responded. I was sad to see how many of you have been in similar situations. I want to thank you all for being so nice and hyping up my stupid pig. You guys are so sweet. I also want to thank you for providing me with advice, perspective and clarity. He had just returned from a trip, so I didn't want him to feel attacked as soon as he opened the door. I hugged him. We spoke casually and had supper. Only after he was settled in and relaxed did I ask if I could speak to him about something, and he said okay. I tried picking my words carefully and didn't want him to feel bombarded. I feel hurt sometimes when I show you something I'm excited or happy about. I feel like you only ever respond negatively. Him. Huh? Like with what? Me. Like with my tapestry. You could have just said it looked nice. Him. So you would have preferred me to be fake about it? Me. No. But what you said wasn't really necessary. I mean, you could have just said it looked interesting, not even nice. That wouldn't have cost anything. Him. I didn't say it was ugly. I just said it looks like one of those that they hang on those stalls. I didn't say it looked good or bad. I was just saying what I thought it looked like. Me. Okay, but are you aware of how often you respond this way? Whenever I show you anything I'm happy about, you tend to criticize it. Him. No, I don't. Me. You do. Him. What else did I do it with? Me. When I showed you my crocheted pig. Him. I like the pig. I think it would look good on my desk in my office. I was actually going to ask you for it. Keep in mind, I made the pig almost 2 weeks ago now. He's never once spoken about it, let alone said he likes it. Me. What about when I showed you my college essay that I got a really good score for and you just snickered after you read it and asked that's the way you write? Him. I don't remember that. Me. Also, you don't ever give me compliments on anything. I'm not just talking about looks-wise but anything. Any achievement, any accomplishment. You never say anything to me. Him. Yes I do. Me. Really? When was the last time you complimented me? Him. You know I have a bad memory and I don't remember small things like that. Me. Well, maybe you could try? Because it makes me feel hurt and feel like you don't actually care about me. Just a little support would make me happy. Him. Nah. You're just a weak person. If I didn't care about you, I wouldn't be with you. At that point I didn't know how to respond, and so I just walked away from the conversation. I didn't want him to see me cry and prove him right about the weakness, so I walked to my cousin's house, which is a few streets away. He saw me leave, didn't say sorry, didn't try to follow me or ask where I'm going. I slept over there. I really felt done. He wasn't like this before, or at least not this bad, and I can't believe I didn't notice him turn into this cold person. I guess that's just the way he is now, and that's not enough for me. It wasn't until the next morning that he looked for me. The text wasn't even directly about me. It was, "Where are you? I can't find my new hair wax." I can't believe how mean he is, and more importantly how blind I've been. I texted back that I'm breaking up with him, to which he said, "Are you serious? This is a stupid thing to break up over. Our relationship is fine. You just need to stop being so sensitive towards things like this." I said that I didn't care and it's what I wanted, and that I would fetch my stuff from his place. He read it but didn't reply after that. I went to his place and collected some of my stuff while he was at work, and I noticed my pig was missing. Seems like he took it. Anyway, I'm going to be roommates with my cousin until I figure out what's next. It's pretty late now and he's messaged many times saying things like he can't believe I'm abandoning our relationship over something like this and that I should be more logical and think about this properly. He also said that our relationship couldn't have meant much to me since I could throw it away so willy-nilly. But I've made my choice. I want someone who'll actually make an effort, not just start ignoring me once you have me in an established relationship. I want to feel supported, loved and appreciated. I guess he just got too comfortable, and so did I, but at least I still showed my love for him. Anyway, that's that. It's over. Honestly, I don't feel great right now and I'm actually a little heartbroken. But I'm going to trudge along and I know I'll get over it eventually.
I, 28 female, think my husband, 33 male, might have only married me to take care of him and his kids. I met my now husband when I was 26. We dated for a year before getting engaged, 4-month engagement, and married. He told me he had kids on our first date, which I was a little nervous about as I'm child-free. As we got closer and more serious, I wasn't too worried about the kids as he did a really good job parenting them and being responsible. He also told me that he didn't have papers, which didn't bother me because I personally think the whole US immigration system is up, and I've known many people who spent years getting their papers situated. Anyway, everything went really well while we were dating. He took excellent care of the kids, cooked so I would have dinner after school and work. I'm in grad school and at the time worked a part-time job, kept his house clean, the whole 9 yards. We also went on dates frequently. He would buy me flowers, get me wine or drinks, listen to my rants and excited stories about grad school, pay attention to my likes, and agree whenever I'd say my cat or snake were so cute. However, things started to change after we got married and I moved in. I quit my part-time job since we could live on his salary and my assistantship salary. He wanted to start a business, so I ended up starting the business in my name given his citizenship status. I ended up doing most of the work to get the paperwork going, which I brushed off a bit because of all the personal information, like social security number and whatnot. And since I quit my part-time job, I now do all of the administrative work for his business, like tax prep, payroll, sending invoices, paying services, etc. So So essentially, I quit my part-time job and gained another one. The longer we've been married, the more things seem to be going in a different direction. Now he throws a fit if I ask for help cleaning the house or other inside chores, claiming he works so hard during the day and does some yard work. I always remind him that I work too and always help with the outside chores. He always gets silent, but nothing ever changes. He stopped taking me on dates unless I specifically asked to go out. He stopped buying me flowers, wines, drinks, etc. He stopped cooking unless he doesn't want what I have cooked or we have family coming over. And worst of all, he stopped becoming the responsible parent that does things with and for his kids. Keep in mind that all of this has happened slowly over time and gotten exceptionally worse since we bought and moved into a house. I feel used. Plus, over time, he's acting more and more like he's entitled to my body, stating things like, I bought you and, but we're married. When I tell him those things are inappropriate, he always says he's joking, to which I say it's not funny. He also stopped caring about what I have to say. He doesn't listen to my rants or excitements anymore. When I say my cat or snake did something cute, he just says, it's just a cat, which is not what he used to do. Anyway, it feels like I'm being used and it just keeps getting worse. And there's a small chance I might be pregnant. I need to buy a new test, which further complicates the matter. Is he using me or is this just what it means to be a wife?
I signed my ex-boyfriend up for the Church of Scientology. I saw that this was a funny trend to sign people up for random email lists and spam them, but I decided to take it a step further because he really burnt me in the past. I went to our local Church of Scientology's website and saw where you could input your personal information to receive messages from the church. Since I had most of this information from our time being together, I filled it out under his name. I did this with a few more churches of Scientology as well. I thought that this would only be a minor inconvenience with a few puzzling and harmless emails, but it turned out to be much worse. Recently, I saw that he posted on his Instagram that he was deleting all of his social media due to privacy reasons.
Whoa.
At first, I didn't think much of it, but after a while, I started to wonder if there was any connection to what I had put in the Church of Scientology's website. So,
Yikes.
out of
Probably.
curiosity, I later decided to bite the bullet and DM him on Instagram in the hopes that he hadn't deactivated his account. A few minutes later, he responded, saying he needed a break from social media. Ultimately, he told me not to worry about it and that he was going to delete his Instagram, 10K followers, later that night. I figured I was off the hook. A few weeks later, I was with a mutual friend of ours, and she updated me on his situation. Apparently, him and his family had been contacted by the Church of Scientology. Supposedly, they actually expressed interest. The mutual friend said that she hadn't seen him in a while, and none of his friends had heard from him in over a month.
Oh no.
She said that it seemed like he was cutting off everybody. I just received word that he's dropping out of school after the semester ends and his family is moving to live with other church members. I know I technically signed him up for this, but I had no idea it would get this bad. He honestly deserved it after everything. I can't exactly state what he did and caution this post would get removed. Just know it was pretty fucked up and me and a friend of mine had to see a therapist.
The time I messed up by buying a 23andMe kit assuming my history is boring. My time I messed up actually started 3 days ago, but background first. My dad was 56 and my mom was 46 when me and my twin sister were born. My dad died in 2007 when my twin sister and I were 12. He had been a heavy drinker and smoker since he was 10, passing at 69 following decades of very poor health, so it was mostly a relief when he died. My mom and dad were married since 1973 and tried for many years to have children until they had my sister and I in 1994. My mom only has us, but my dad had a son from a prior marriage who was about 30 years older than us, who I've met several times, but we aren't close due to the age difference. He also had 2 daughters from another prior marriage that I had never met. I only know they live in California and first names. They also did not speak to my dad and didn't attend his funeral. As I've gotten older and had kids of my own, I became more curious about my dad's family. I asked my mom to no avail. She said she had no idea about why the girls didn't speak to my dad. She said she also didn't know how to contact them. I ordered a 23andMe kit to hopefully find my half-sisters and get some answers. Also, the idea of possibly being 1% black or Asian would have been cool. I'm white as can be. So I ordered the kit and 3 weeks later get my results. Unfortunately, I am not any shocking ethnicity. 61.2% British actually, along with 20.7% French/German and other European makeup. What is surprising though is that I found 4 half-sisters. 2 more than I thought. My dad was not a picture of moralism, so it doesn't surprise me he had some unclaimed kids running around. So, excitedly, I clicked to see the names. Oddly, none of the names match my half-sisters I'm looking for. This means I have 6 half-sisters. Wow, dad was passed around, but this is still exciting. My twin and I immediately messaged them on the site. The first to reply, we'll call Mary. She says she was born via IVF in 1992 in North Carolina. Mary also said the donor was a med student. Well, my mom is adamant my dad didn't donate to sperm banks and that he didn't live in the state she's from. So I'm thinking poor Mary doesn't know her mom is lying to her about an affair she had with my dad. I felt terrible for my mom as well, as this would definitely mean he cheated on my mom. Like I said, my dad was scummy. I just tell Mary that our father was actually in construction his whole life, so he or the agency was lying about med school. He dropped out in 7th grade. I sent her some pictures of my dad and my twin and I from childhood. We laugh about how much we look alike and say we could even be triplets. Later that evening, I get another message from another half-sister we'll call Tiffany. Tiffany says she was also conceived via IVF in 1993 in Pennsylvania. All she knows is her dad has blonde hair and green eyes and was a med student. I'm honestly so happy to see another IVF because this confirms my dad did use sperm banks and just didn't tell my mom. Which was awful, but better than an affair. I send Tiffany pictures of my dad and tell her about him, and that's it. Then comes last night. I'm shopping at IKEA with my friends, relaying this soap opera story to them. I'm telling them my theory about these sperm banks lying to their customers to get better prices. Telling people they're getting a blonde hair, green-eyed med student when in reality they're getting a brown hair, brown-eyed sheetrock worker. It's at this moment my friend Miranda said, "You and your twin have blonde hair and green eyes. What if your dad isn't your dad and your mom also used IVF?" At first I laughingly entertained the idea that it would make sense for my mom to need IVF because that makes way more sense than suddenly becoming pregnant at 46 and 56. I quickly realized, holy crap, that actually does make sense. Then came the obvious thought to probably everyone but me: how could a 55-year-old alcoholic chain smoker pass for a med student? It would have been 25 years since he could believably look under 35. Unless they somehow had his sperm in storage for 30 years before using it. And the sperm banks in different states use the same lie about med school. It didn't seem likely. I also have type 1 diabetes and have no family history at all. Every doctor I've had tells me how unlucky I am because it is usually in the family tree and my chances of getting it were very low. I'm currently looking at my half-brother's pictures and he looks just like my dad but nothing like my sister, and I'm not even close. My mom has had a migraine throwing up the past 2 days since discussing this, but I assumed it was a coincidence. Now I'm thinking nerves. I'm going to talk to my mom today, and if I get the answer I think I will, I'm going to message my new half-sisters apologizing for showing them their dad because he's actually none of our dads. Pretty sweet. My dad might be a doctor and not a raging alcoholic though, so that's cool. My mom admitted it. We are IVF babies. I texted my half-sisters this morning to let them know. This will be a great party story. So it's been 2.5 years since this shocking, although very much makes sense, discovery. We have now found a total of 4 half-sisters and 2 half-brothers, all on our dad's side. Still no progress on finding out who it is, as the closest relative other than the IVF siblings is a 3rd or 4th cousin. It's fine. I mean, who really cares about knowing things like your medical history and literal parent? Anywho, we had even less of a connection with our biological mom, who was also an egg donor. I mean, zero, zilch, nada. We were admittedly expectant every time a new relative would pop up, but the vast majority were from dad. As time passed, we pretty much gave up looking. However, after watching Our Father on Netflix last night, no, that's not our dad, I decided to once again check good old 23andMe. And voila, first cousin, mom's side. I attempted to send a message on the app, but ain't nobody got time for that. I decided to utilize my investigative skills, aka social media, to see what clues I could uncover. Thankfully, said first cousin put his mom's maiden name. One Facebook search and I found his mom, which led me to her sister's profiles. The second I saw the picture of all of them, I internally, okay, and externally, said bingo, no way we aren't related. And if they tried to tell me otherwise, I was going to offer to personally send a DNA test to prove it. No DNA test needed though, as I received a response in less than 24 hours that confirmed my suspicions and filled my heart with joy. She wanted to find us too. Not only that, we also have 6 more half-siblings and a sports team's worth of nieces and nephews. We all live close to each other and are planning a get-together. I know not all of these stories have a happy ending, so it's fun to share when they do. My parents let my brother steal from me. Back when I was still a kid, it was very hard for anything to be exclusively mine. And as my brother got older, he craved money for things above all else. He and I both got allowances, equal allowances, so that was sort of fair. I say sorta because he didn't have to do chores for his, while I did. But that's in the past now because my brother is now having to do all those chores for nothing. My brother always wanted more money though, whether he spent it or not. He loved having new things, but sometimes he'd just save the money instead. Which is odd because you'd think him the kind of kid who'd splurge his savings on the first thing he wants. My brother and I both got allowances of about $25 a month, and I was pretty thankful for it. I usually saved most of my money though, but my brother always wanted more. One day as a teenager I came home to find my room had been ransacked, and the only thing gone was my money. I'd hidden it to try and keep it from my brother, because well, obvious reasons if you readers know what my brother is like by now. I thought I'd hidden it well, but he found it anyway. My mom was home when he did it too, and she acted like she didn't even notice. But there's no way she could not have heard him tearing my room up. I called her out on that during the intervention and she just cried and made excuses about my brother being special, till other family members told her to shut up and own up to it. My room was on the first floor right near the living room. My door was completely in view of the couch, and when I pointed this out back then, my mom just made the "but he's special. He's not like you" Excuse for my brother. I said I wanted the money back, and my mom just made more excuses. And my dad did too when he got home later. So yeah, excuses then and now. Back then I did eventually get that money back because I refused to let it go. I heard my brother screaming as they took the money out of his piggy bank and gave it back to me, and they had the most disappointed looks on their faces, like I just robbed my brother, even though he'd robbed me. But they couldn't tell me off because I wasn't in the wrong, and they knew it. I don't imagine many kids getting in the kind of situations where they are more right about something than their parents very often. A few months later and the whole situation repeated. My brother ransacked my room again and stole the money I'd hidden, again. That time my parents didn't want to do anything about it, and basically said that they couldn't bear to see my brother so disappointed from taking his money. I reminded them that stolen money wasn't his money, and it was really crappy that they were just sitting back and letting that happen. My dad yelled at me to go to my room for saying that. So the next day I rode my bike to my aunt's house and told her everything. She came back home with me and asked my parents if they really let my brother steal from me and did nothing about it. My mom just started whining that my brother is special needs, and she didn't want to make him cry again. And my dad backed her up. My aunt just gave them both that narrow-eyed look and reminded them they have 2 sons, and my feelings mattered too. And what they were doing was very wrong. And it meant that my brother would never respect boundaries and would think he can always get away with stealing when he gets older. My aunt asked me openly how much my brother took. I stated the number, which at the time was everything I had, save for the few bucks in my wallet. My aunt gave my parents an expectant glare. My parents tried making a few more excuses, but my aunt had a counter for each one. Finally my parents went into my brother's room, and a moment later my brother was screaming. My parents came back with all of the money my brother took, and practically threw it at me for making my brother cry. My aunt then told them off for acting that way when I'd done nothing wrong, and they picked up all of the money they'd thrown at me and gave a pretty forced apology. My aunt said that she'd be severely disappointed in them if they let this situation repeat. And before she left, my aunt offered for me to hide my money at her house in a lockbox she had. I took her up on that and started keeping my savings over there. My brother ended up ransacking my room 2 more times looking for money, but I was keeping every cent I had at my aunt's house. My parents actually asked me where I'd hidden it, and I refused to tell. Then I asked why they wanted to know so badly anyway, and my dad instantly got defensive about it. My mom calmed him down and they didn't ask again. Since he couldn't find my money in my room, my brother figured I must have hidden it somewhere else. So he started tearing the house apart one room after another. And who was made to clean up the mess? Why, yours truly, of course. My parents started to blame me for the whole situation. But when I asked how I was at fault for not letting my brother steal from me, their only counter was that my brother had special needs. I swear, they used that line with me thousands of times. That was something else I heavily berated my parents for in the family intervention. The final straw came when my brother ransacked our parents' bedroom. My parents had a small suitcase safe that they kept some cash in, and my brother locked himself in their room, then took the whole safe and started bashing it around on stuff to try and get it open because he couldn't find the keys. By the time my parents were able to get the door open by breaking it open, my brother had destroyed the room, and he never got that safe open. He just sat on the floor clutching it and crying about the money inside it. My dad was so angry that he turned red, and he actually started yelling at my brother and grounded him. A very rare sight for me to see back then indeed. Then my parents forced my brother to help clean up the mess. After that my brother never ransacked mine or my parents' rooms looking for money again. But he'd still go rooting around every time he got an idea where my savings might be. So I started acting like I was giving hints by repeatedly going into certain places while he was watching. He ransacked the backyard shed, dug a bunch of holes in the yard and under the back porch, and even ransacked the attic. My parents really hit their breaking point with the attic and grounded my brother again. They never figured out I led him on either. My parents did eventually figure out I was keeping my money at my aunt's house, and they didn't argue with my reasoning for doing it. But either my brother overheard, or one of them spilled the beans to him, because the next time we visited my aunt, my brother tried to hunt for the money. But my aunt yelled at him to stop, and my brother would just sit on the floor and cry. This happened a few times and my aunt bluntly stated she'd press charges for any damages if my brother ransacked anything, and also kept a digital camera on hand to record anything if need be. My parents heavily scolded my brother to stop looking for my money. It wasn't his, and he can't have it. Cue more screaming and crying that he wants it like a 3-year-old, even though he was 7 at the time. Then my brother said he didn't want to go to Auntie's house anymore. So my parents visited less. My aunt visited us a lot more than we visited her anyway. I was pretty much able to keep my money away from my brother till after I moved out. He's never managed to steal cash from me again. His classmates at school were another story. He was caught looking through the backpacks of other kids many times, and he was forced to return stolen stuff, and then sent home, where he'd cry to mom and dad, who then tried to have words with the school, who berated them on letting my brother think what he was doing was okay. They had to teach my brother that it's no okay to go through other people's stuff, and I actually heard him say but I wanted what they had a few times. This excuse got used again when my brother stole an envelope with birthday money from a cousin during their birthday party. He tried to stuff it in his shirt and walk out with it later, but the cousin noticed it was missing, and I suspected my brother right away and pointed everyone to him. He ended up crying and thrashing when my dad found the envelope hidden in his shirt. We left that party early. Today I realize that my boyfriend never compliments me. We've been together for 8 years and have a pretty solid relationship. Today, I received a tapestry that I ordered online. It's really beautiful and I was counting down the days till it arrived. As soon as I got it, I opened it and showed it to my boyfriend. His reaction was that looks like something they'd hang on a cheap stall on the side of the road where they do haircuts. That slightly annoyed me because he could see my obvious excitement and happiness with it. Even if he didn't like it, he could have just said it looks cool and it would have been fine. Anyway, I overlooked this, but then I realized that he always does this. Whenever I'm excited or proud of something, he just has to trash on it. Recently I made my first crochet project. It was a pig and it took me a whole week. I also have joint problems, so I was extra proud that I had completed it and that it came out perfectly. When I showed it to him, I didn't even get an "it's cute" or "it turned out really well." He just looked at it and went back to sleep. At that time, I chalked it up to him just being uninterested because I woke him up from a nap to show him a pig. The more I thought about it, the more I realized that he always does this. Whenever I'm happy/excited/proud of something, the first words out of his mouth are to criticize. I'm a pessimistic person myself, but when someone comes to me bursting with excitement about something, I'm always supportive. It doesn't cost much to say, "That's really nice," or "Wow, well done." Even if it's not something that particularly interests me or is in my taste, I'm always supportive. When he shows me diagrams of buildings that he's working on, he's an architect, even though it doesn't interest me, I'm always supportive and I even pay attention to learn so I can understand what he's talking about. I do the same when he talks about computer parts. I have no natural interest in it, but for him, I listen and support. Honestly, I don't care about the capabilities of that graphics card, but I can see how excited you are when you talk about it, so I pay attention and I say how awesome I think it is. This realization led to another. He never compliments me in general. I compliment him. I tell him he's handsome. I tell him he's pretty. I do that quite often. Me on the other hand, I don't remember the last time he gave me a compliment. These realizations made me kind of sad and are really bothering me. Am I just being too sensitive? Should I try talking to him? But what would I say? You can't exactly force someone to be complimentary. Any advice would be appreciated.
Am I wrong for dropping out of my friend's wedding party after a prank? Depends how severe the prank was. My female 26 cousin, female 29, got engaged a few months ago and asked me to be a bridesmaid. I was so excited to accept. His sister, 32 female, is the maid of honor, and there are 3 other bridesmaids. The date is set for April 2024. On April 1st of this year, she sent a PDF to the bridesmaid group chat that really made me angry. It was a list of wedding party responsibilities, rules, and regulations. It included a picture of the bridesmaid dresses that we'd be wearing. They were hideous. And she told us that we have to pay $800 for them and that they only went up to a size 8, so anyone bigger than that would need to lose weight before the wedding. That made me so angry because I wear a size 10, but also she's like a size 12 herself, so even fatter than me. Other ridiculous things she added. None of us were allowed to be tanner than her for the wedding, so she told us that none of us could spend significant time in the sun for the next year. She wanted to have longer hair than all of her bridesmaids, so she said that we'd all have to cut our hair to our shoulders or shorter. She wanted to do a choreographed dance with all of us and insisted that we go to a 3-hour dance classes with her every Sunday until the wedding, a year away. She said that she wanted her bachelorette party to be in Paris and that we would all need to chip in $3,000. There was more, but I was so angry I stopped reading and muted the group chat for a few hours. I was so livid and hurt that I decided to drop out of the wedding party, but I didn't say anything right away. The next day I checked the group chat again and everyone else had been chatting about how funny the bride's prank was. Apparently, at the bottom of the PDF it said April Fools, but I hadn't read that far because I was so mad. Everyone else thought it was hilarious, but it still rubbed me the wrong way. I reached out to the bride to tell her how much this hurt my feelings, and she did apologize. But even though it's been almost 2 months, I'm still really angry. I can kind of tell. I decided this week that I no longer wanted to be a bridesmaid because of the mean-spirited prank and told my cousin. Now she's really hurt and angry, and the other maid of honor and other bridesmaids and some of my family members are blowing up my phone saying that I'm overreacting to an innocent prank. But I believe that pranks are only funny if the recipient finds them funny, and I definitely don't. So, am I the asshole? So she has a small little edit, okay? Okay, clearly, I've been deemed the asshole, and I'll accept that, but I also realized that I didn't explain my feelings very well. I was angry because all of the items in the list seemed to single me out. Expensive dress and bachelorette. I make the least money out of everyone in the wedding party, and it felt like a job. The sizing? Same thing. Only me and 2 other bridesmaids are bigger than a size 8. The hair? We all have long hair, but I have the longest hair out of anyone in the wedding party. The tanning? I work outdoors, so I'm probably the one most likely to be tan. Everything I read on the list felt tailored to me. Oh my god, this sounds like more like self-esteem issues more than anything.